Death. This is something that the human race will experience at some point in their lives. It is something that we can neither escape nor run from. Death is ever present, and eventually it comes for us all. And in the terrifying world of Five Nights at Freddy's, the Nightmarionne is seemingly the personification of death itself. So without further ado, let's jump into our shallow graves and take a journey into the hereafter. The Nightmare Puppet is a deeply disturbing character, not just in what it does as an entity, but its appearance as a whole. On the surface, the Nightmarionne just appears to be a nightmare version of the puppet conjured up by the crying child's fear of animatronics. But this could not be further from the truth. The Nightmarionne is a tall, inhuman figure with long, spindly limbs. It has long, tentacle-like claws, sharp teeth, and glowing white eyes. It resembles the puppet, yes, but it is deeply disturbing. When images of the Nightmarionne are lightened up, we can actually see that its eyes appear to be very human and even bloodshot. Something that, like I said before, makes the Nightmarionne appear to be very paranormal in nature and extremely disturbing. As if this was an animatronic, why would it have seemingly human eyes? And whilst the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 4 Halloween Edition are not considered to be canon, the presence of the Nightmarionne has a different meaning. If the Nightmarionne is truly death personified, his presence in the crying child's house could actually be a reflection of the Grim Reaper, with the Nightmarionne coming to collect crying child's soul as he takes him into the afterlife. But like I said before, the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 4 Halloween Edition are considered not to be canon to the overarching story of Five Nights at Freddy's. The first canonical appearance of the Nightmarionne is actually during the events of Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night, where we actually follow series villain William Afton, who appears to be stuck in a hellish purgatory and is being terrorized by several animatronic characters. And among these characters is, of course, the Nightmarionne. And in a game like Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night, there are so many characters to keep track of. And in a game that has this many threats, it is very easy to die. And upon dying, the animatronics will begin to talk to William, and many of them do not have nice things to say to him. However, the Nightmarionne is very different in the way it chooses to berate and torture William in this purgatory. The Nightmarionne wants to both punish William for the evil things he's done, but it also finds great pleasure in tormenting William, making him live out his pain and suffering for as long as possible, as the Nightmarionne talks about wanting William to taste death over and over again.
Let's taste death again and again.
And whilst it is never stated as to why the Nightmarionne seems to be a little petty, the answer is actually quite simple if you think about it. William Afton always comes back. If he dies, he is never dead for long, and now William is trapped in this purgatory-like state. And this is where the Nightmarionne can finally get to William. Now, William can't ever truly be killed, but the Nightmarionne is going to take sadistic pleasure in torturing him for as long as it can.
This time, death cannot save you. This is a nightmare that you won't come awake from.
The next time we see Nightmarionne is during the events of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted VR. And we actually see Nightmarionne creeping around a distorted, rundown version of the crying child's bedroom. And the Nightmarionne's behavior is very interesting in that the Nightmarionne doesn't want its true form to be revealed. It is always seen in the darkest shadows, never fully coming into the light. When it is in the hallway, it stands at the end of the hallway staring at the player. When it is in the bedroom, all we can ever make out is its spindly tentacle-like claws lapping at the darkness. Also, I just want to mention the sound that these tentacle claws make is kind of gross. Your kinky girlfriend just called. She wants her latex bodysuit back. The Nightmarionne also was referenced numerous times during the events of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. The Nightmarionne appeared as a plush toy that can be found in numerous locations around the Mega Pizzaplex, and on top of that, the staff bots that Vanny has hacked and has under her control are painted up to look like the Nightmarionne. They even have the phrase, "in your dreams," written across their chests. So while the Nightmarionne does not appear physically during the events of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, it is referenced multiple times. Despite not physically appearing at the Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex location. And the fact that Vanessa/Vanny has designed these staff bots to look like the Nightmarionne, and the Nightmarionne has been depicted as being a personification of death, it makes me wonder as to why Vanessa is obsessed with death in this scenario, because she clearly cared enough about the Nightmarionne to make her corrupted staff bots look like him. But the presence of Nightmarionne in the Mega Pizzaplex doesn't end with the Nightmarionne staff bots. Throughout many locations in Freddy's Mega Pizzaplex, you can actually encounter cables and other such objects that mimic the Nightmarionne's spindly tentacle-like claws. In the arcade, you can actually see some string lights that are black and white in color, and they resemble the spindly tentacles of the Nightmarionne. When you go into Phaser Blast in the maintenance tunnels, there are some cables that also resemble the tentacles of the Nightmarionne, and even the Blob. When the Blob attacks you, reaching through the vents during the Burn Trap boss fight, you can actually see that the tentacles of the Blob also resemble the tentacles of the Nightmarionne. And I find it to be rather odd that, like I said before, the Nightmarionne is heavily showcased during the events of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach and its sequel, Security Breach Ruin, but never actually shown. Like, the character does not actually physically appear at Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex, but there are plush toys of the Nightmarionne. There are staff bots that are painted to look like the Nightmarionne. There are cables that look like the Nightmarionne's tentacles. It's very bizarre that we have all of these references to the character, but he never appears. Who knows, maybe they're foreshadowing the Nightmarionne becoming some sort of major threat in an upcoming Five Nights at Freddy's title. But with all that being said, this pretty much brings my video about the Nightmarionne to a close. Definitely a really terrifying character. His appearance is just really badass, but the noises and the way he moves are super unnerving. I mean, as he should be. He's literally the personification of death. But with that, hope you guys enjoyed. Do take care, have a great night, and I'll see you in the next video.